Welcome back to Fireside Knicks with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about Shaq saying some ridiculous bullshit. He came out and said something about the Knicks, being hyped up and it's New York and everything's this and everything's that. I think that that's probably the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. And excuse my language, but who on earth has been talking about the Knicks being hyped up? Right, for this long. I mean, he said, this is the exact quote, "You know what it is? New York is a place that's built on hype, that controls the hype. They can hype everybody else up. They haven't won shit, but oh, New York, New York, so Brunson can play. I was wrong about him. He's impressive, but they're nowhere close to winning a championship." Cap. They're going to win some games and do this, and I'm more impressed with, at the end of your career, how many championships you won. I think that take alone might be one of the dumbest things I ever heard. Who the hell was hyping up Elfrid Payton as our starting point guard? Who the hell was hyping up some of these guys over the past couple years? Who the hell was hyping up Julius? In fact, New York fans were tearing Julius Randle to shreds before hyping him up. Who on earth was hyping up this Knicks team? Even last season, we were excited, but nobody was acting as if we were like a lock to make a championship. I think that's the biggest load of crap I've ever heard the Knicks have. The Knicks finally have a really solid roster with good depth, and suddenly we're overhyped. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are two of the best defensive wings in the league. Julius Randle's one of the most physical power forwards. Jalen Brunson's one of the best point guards in the game. Dante DiVincenzo is going to be a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. We discussed that the other day. Same with Josh Hart, Energizer, one of the best rebounding forwards and small forwards in the game too. So, you're looking at the situation at hand. This Knicks team is built to win. This Knicks team is built to be a really solid defensive team with high-octane scoring opportunities. Not to mention the depth they have, as I mentioned, Miles McBride as well. I'm excited to see what this team does. I'm not saying that we're going to win a championship or that we're even going to get to the championship. This team is capable of making it to a championship. The hype is finally real for this Knicks team. I don't think anyone would say that this team was hyped up over the past couple years, Ryan. I don't know what you think about this. I think this is probably the most bullshit take I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I think it's awful. Look, I understand that there is obviously a bunch of media attention on the Knicks, and whether you're a small market team and you feel like that's unfair or not, let's be real. The New York Knicks are one of the most scrutinized and criticized teams in the league, and that comes with media attention. When you are a team that is wildly popular, or not wildly popular as in like they're widely covered and widely talked about, it comes with detractors and it comes with supporters. Yes, Knick fans, because any fan which stands for fanatic, by the way, not analyst, fan. Any Knicks fan is going to view their team more favorably than a Celtics fan will view the Knicks. Just like a Celtics fan is going to view the Celtics more favorably than the Knicks will view the Celtics. That's how that goes. But when it comes to the public national landscape, yeah, I just disagree. I think the Knicks are just as criticized as they are praised. I will also put out that this idea that the Knicks are like fake contenders, and it's just media marvel bullshit. The Knicks are one of the smartest teams in the NBA. That's not an exaggeration. That's not, bullshit. That's not me just talking out of my ass. They are one of the smartest teams in the NBA. They are. They make extremely wise and extremely savvy acquisitions. They consistently find ways to maximize player value. If you were to list off the best contracts in the NBA, a lot of New York Knicks would pop up on that list. We would be looking at Jalen Brunson. We'll be looking at Dante DiVincenzo. We will be looking at when Isaiah Hartenstein was here. That was one of the best contracts in the NBA. Both Brunson contracts, this most recent extension and the one he signed initially. The Randall contract looks really good, and the first one looked really good. The value you've gotten on Mitchell Robinson's been really strong. The Josh Hart contract's excellent. So all I'm saying is that the Knicks get more value out of their signings and out of their acquisitions than anybody else. Anybody else relative, like maybe the Celtics, maybe Thunder. The Thunder are really smart. But we're talking about like if the Milwaukee Bucks made signings the way the Knicks could, Giannis would have a dynasty. If the Nuggets could make player acquisitions at the efficiency that the Knicks do, Jokic would be looking at a dynasty. The reason that the Celtics, their outlook is so good, their team is so good, and everyone hypes them up so much is because they're very smart, and they're very talented. The Knicks are entering that territory of not just being very smart, but very talented. This is a deep team, and Nobi's arguably the best defensive player in the NBA. Jalen Brunson's one of the best offensive players in the NBA, and they're scattered with role players who are elite at what they do. One of the best shooters in the NBA in Dante DiVincenzo. One of the best all-around rebounders in the NBA in Josh Hart. One of the best defenders in OG Anunoby. Again, Robinson's one of the best shot blockers in the league. McBride has really emerged as a great bench scoring option. Mikal Bridges is an excellent two-way player. Julius Randle brings amazing offensive value. He may not bring the defensive value, but he does bring offensive value. This team is deep. They're well built. They have multiple guys who can swap into the starting rotation if somebody were to get hurt. That makes them a contender because that's what they are. And if Shaq doesn't see that, then, hey man, maybe there's a reason why Inside the NBA wasn't brought back. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you look at a lot of these other contending teams, they don't even have close to the amount of talent that the Knicks do. And I think that that's kind of where the argument stops. You look at the depth, as you mentioned, we have two guys that would start on most teams sitting on our bench as rotational pieces, and that's a luxury by most accounts. The 76ers, they have three primary guys, and they're considered, everyone's like, oh, the Sixers, they have Paul George and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and like, oh, they're real contenders. But beyond those three guys, they have nothing. They have nothing. So it's like you look at the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, equally if not better than Tyrese Maxey. Julius Randle, of course, solid player, but Joel Embiid's arguably the best player in the league. So, you're not going to be able to compete with that in terms of the overall competency. But then you look at, of course, Paul George, who's, getting older. I'd say, he's an elite scorer, bad defender at this point in his career, or at least sometimes a lazy defender. I mean, he looked like he didn't even want to play in their postseason series. You look at the Golden State Warriors. I mean, they have Steph, but beyond that, like what's going on there? The Timberwolves are a very good team. Anthony Edwards is an absolute stud. Denver is really great. But beyond Jokic, sometimes they fall apart. Jamal Murray is extremely volatile. The Pacers, you look at them, you're like, oh, they're a really good young playoff team. Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, like some really good pieces. Andrew Nembhard, like solid, but they lack some depth too. You look at maybe the Bucks. Aside from, Damian Lillard, his shooting was horribly volatile this past season. Obviously an elite scorer still, but his defense lacks at times. And then of course Giannis has had some injury issues. So beyond those two guys, though, there's no one that's picking that team up and winning them any playoff games. And they have to have extraordinary shooting performances. This Knicks team has players that can plug and play starting positions all over the place. They have guys that can swap. Julius Randle could double as a center. Dante DiVincenzo is shooting guard. He's a solid wing, picks up steals. Not the best defender, obviously, but he's a really great scorer. Josh Hart, energizer off the bench. Like, this team is legitimately built great from bottom to top, and I think that that's really where the Knicks make a difference here. And Shaq saying that they're overhyped, it's New York, they're this and that. What other teams have two elite defensive wings, have one of the best point guards in the game, one of the best power forwards in the game, and an elite defensive center when healthy in Mitchell Robinson, and the Knicks could still make another move? What other teams are saying they have elite? A guy that just set the Knicks franchise record for three-pointers made in a season, coming off the bench. What other team has a guy like Josh Hart who rebounds out of his mind at his size, assists, play makes, energizer, like guy runs the floor for the entire game and doesn't miss a minute? What other teams have guys like that can step in and fill those roles? Guys like Miles McBride, who's on one of the best contracts in the league, who steps in and can shoot 40% from three. What other teams have this type of depth? Except for the Celtics, who are getting a lot of value. I'd even argue the Knicks have just as good depth as them now. So, it's kind of an interesting situation where guys like Shaq are saying, well, the Knicks are overhyped. I don't see that take. I don't get that take. It doesn't make any sense to me. The Knicks are properly hyped because they are a good team and they've earned the right to be properly hyped. Last season, they made they made it to the second round of the playoffs. They beat the 76ers, and they were shredded, right? Completely shredded. Hart was injured. Mitch was injured. Jalen was injured. Randall was injured. Like, how many guys have to get hurt before we have to say this team couldn't go because they didn't have the depth, but now you have healthy guys, good health history at several key positions. I think this Knicks team is in a really good spot, and I think they're properly weighed. I think they're being considered contenders because they've earned the right to be considered contenders. Ryan, any last thoughts on that? Because I think we're kind of in lockstep on this one. Ridiculous take. The Knicks have not been overhyped for years. Finally, we get to a point where we've earned that right, and I think we've earned our flowers a bit in that regard.
Yeah, I'm going to put this out here right now. The New York Knicks are, again, one of the most well-ran teams in the NBA, and they're one of the best teams in the NBA. So when we're talking about a team that's going to self-identify their needs and improve at the deadline, the Knicks are one of those teams. We're talking about a team who can maximize the rotation, understand which guys are performing well, overperforming, and underperforming. It's the Knicks. When they make adjustments in the rotation, and look, Tom Thibodeau was recently extended, and Goat Tibbs, my glorious leader of men, he does a great job of identifying which guys need to come in and out of the rotation. He started dialing down the minutes for Grimes. The guy is basic. I mean, I'm not saying he stinks, but the Mavericks got him for nothing just now, right? And DiVincenzo ends up becoming a postseason hero. Do the Knicks beat the Sixers in that series if Dante DiVincenzo isn't the starter? I don't know. I don't think so, right? That was a big shot. He had some big minutes. He was a 20-point per game guy, basically, once Randall went down. That's the kind of thing that Coach Tom Thibodeau does. What about Doc Rivers? You see Doc Rivers making those adjustments? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The Bucks were like a below 500 team with him at the helm. The guy does nothing but blow 3-1 leads. They couldn't close the door against Indiana, even though, and granted, they were hurt, but they had advantages in that series. I don't view Doc Rivers as an opposing figure. It's like, oh man, that guy can coach. I don't view the Bucks front office as, oh wow, those guys, they make really savvy moves. You look at what Miami. I mean, what did they do this deadline? Wasn't there a report that they don't even know how the new rules work? They don't even know how the apron works, man. They don't even know how the new rules work. What do you want me to do? Be scared of them? They don't even know how the league works. Philly, I mean, look, they are very talented. It is not a deep team, and all due respect to that front office and that coaching staff, Nick Nurse got out-coached by Tom Thibodeau. Nick Nurse got shoved in a locker by Tom Thibodeau. He got stuffed in a locker by our glorious leader of men. And then to kind of look at the other contenders, Indiana, I think if we're healthy, we beat them. I'm not dismissing them, but if I think we're healthy, I think if we're healthy, we beat them.
100%.
Orlando,
no, we don't just beat them. We beat the brakes off.
I think we do as well.
We're healthy.
Orlando, I mean, I know Paolo Banchero gets a lot of hype. I don't think he's better than Julius Randle even. Like, he's a good player. He's not that good yet, right? He's good.
He takes so many shots. If you have OG
complains about
Anunoby on
inefficiency.
Paolo Banchero, he's getting cooked. Like,
Yeah, everyone complains about Randle's efficiency, but like he's more efficient than Banchero, and both of them, like Banchero is a better defender. I will give him that. Much better defensive player, but offensively, I'm not really getting enough from him. Franz Wagner really took a step back from the 3-point range. They were a good team. They were a good young team, but they didn't really do anything in the offseason to make you go, oh, they're taking a lead. Like if they got Paul George, you go like, oh shit, they're here. You know what I mean? Cleveland, dude, we psychologically own Cleveland. I mean, Josh Hart goes over to the fucking bench, takes off Donovan Mitchell's chain in front of their bench. You know what they did? Nothing. We psychologically
Allen literally said 2 years ago, I can't handle the light.
Dude, Jared Allen
those guys in a body
learned
bag.
a life lesson because he ran into Mitchell Robinson. Like, I just want to point this out. Like, the Knicks psychologically own the Cavaliers. They own those dudes. So, I'm just saying, and the Celtics are, I think the Celtics are the best team in the East. I do. But I will say this again. When the Knicks play the Celtics, the best player on the court is Jalen Brunson. I'm putting that out there. I'm just saying. So they're a contender. Like they are. Why do we have to pretend they're not? What? So are the Thunder not contenders because they couldn't get out of the second round? Is that the argument we want to make too? Like if you don't get out of the second round, you're not a contender because I guess the Thunder aren't. If you're not a championship caliber player until you win a championship, was Giannis not a championship caliber player until he won a title? Was Jokic not a championship caliber player until he won a title? I'm not saying that Jalen Brunson's LeBron James, but are we going to sit here and pretend that LeBron James wasn't a championship caliber player until he finally won one? You know what I mean? I think that's when we get crazy. Like, you are a championship caliber player if you are very good and an MVP kind of player. And that's what Jalen Brunson is. And he has a great team around him. So, Shaq, kick rocks. If you think the Knicks aren't contenders, kick rocks. If you don't think Coach Tom Thibodeau, he plays his guys too much, kick rocks. Your team's soft. My team isn't. My team has everyone bought in. They're not soft. Your team's soft. That's why you guys have, like, the Joel Embiids of the world. The guy, he's got shit running down his legs in the Olympics and all that. That guy can't handle playing under my glorious leader of men. Joe Mazzulla's a guy. I love Joe Mazzulla. Great coach. He gets the most out of his guys because he pushes them. That's what good coaches do, man. They push their players. You have to push people to get more out of them, and Tibbs does that perfectly. So, well ran, well coached, great roster. Everybody else in the East outside of the Celtics, they're dog water to me, and this team's a contender. Everyone else that thinks otherwise can kick fucking rocks.
Yeah, I I agree with you. I think finally we have a little bit of hype, and now they're saying we're overhyped. It's like, come on, man! Like this is a good operation. Like finally the Knicks have a good operation. People want to throw us in the gutter. So I agree with everything you said. I imagine most Knicks fans would. But always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Knicks episode.